6 spine-chilling Walmart night shift horrors exposed, unexplained encounters that will haunt you. The clock struck midnight, and Rachel felt the unsettling shift in the air. Once considered a safe haven, the local Walmart now groaned under a different weight. Shadows lurked in every corner, hungry for her attention, whispering secrets that clawed at the edges of her sanity. The fluorescent lights pulsed, flickering like lost souls. She took a deep breath, but the scent of stale popcorn filled her lungs, turning her stomach. She clenched her fists, pushing the dark thoughts aside. After all, she had bills to pay. As the last of the shoppers trickled out, the store fell into an oppressive silence. Then came the whispers, soft, insidious murmurs curling through the aisles. Was it just her fatigue? Rachel shook her head, blinking hard, but the shadows seemed to pulse with life, retreating only to emerge again in the periphery. Her heart raced at the thought of the local news stories of disappearances tucked beneath carpets, and rarely spoken of. Dread mixed with her protective instincts. Stay alert. Everything felt off. On one harrowing shift, Rachel stumbled into the back room, her senses screaming as she discovered the stashed items: old toys with ghostly eyes, children's clothing, and a bloodied shirt torn and worn. Each object felt like a weight on her chest, pulsing with the desperation of long-lost voices. The friendly camaraderie of her coworkers turned into a web of suspicion, smiling faces hiding dark secrets. Greg, her manager, seemed to watch her closely, charm masking something sinister lurking just beneath. She remembered the distant giggle echoing through the aisles, a sound that brought her both joy and terror. Lily's laughter had always filled her home with warmth, yet its chilling replication here transformed it into a haunting symphony. How could a place that supported her now feel suffocating? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, as the fluorescent lights buzzed and dimmed, Rachel and Lily accidentally followed the sound into the automotive section. A heavy sense of doom enveloped them, thick and suffocating. They shivered, grasping onto each other's hands, peering around the endless shelves stacked with car oil and tires, pushing the shadows back with sheer will. Then, from the darkness, a figure lurked, too still, too quiet. Rachel felt her breath hitch, panic slamming into her chest as the figure's gaze bore down on them. "Lily!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension, but the lights flickered violently, and shadows lashed out from the corners. The chilling laugh echoed, slicing through the air like glass, winding its way into every crack of Rachel's mind. A laugh she recognized, the same children's laughter the local news used to remember the lost. The nightmare twisted around them, and the familiar aisles transformed into a terrifying labyrinth. Can Rachel save herself and Lily from the store's sinister secrets? Or will they join the ranks of those who've been lost in the dark corners of a place once considered home? The smell of rust and oil filled Rachel's nostrils as she strained to see through the flickering lights. The figure was gone. Just like that, vanished into the shadows. But her heart pounded louder than ever, a war drum in her chest pushing her feet into motion. "Did you see that?" she gasped, gripping Lily's hand tightly, her knuckles widening. The little girl's eyes were wide like saucers, a mixture of confusion and fear creeping across her young face. Rachel could feel her panic rise as they stayed still, the echoes of that haunting laugh reverberating like a malicious chorus in her ears. "I want to go home," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible over the noise of the world around them. Rachel glanced back towards the aisle they had come from. The path was swallowed in darkness, drawn into a suffocating black void. Panic knotted her stomach. "Okay, let us get out of here, sweetie." They took a step, then another, moving deeper into the store's twisted layout. Each aisle turned like a treacherous maze, leading them farther from safety and into the unknown. The unnerving whispers began again, swirling like the air was charged with static. Voices seemed to echo from the shelves, desperate cries for help or mocking laughter, Rachel couldn't tell which, but neither assuaged her dread. Then they spotted a flicker of light further ahead. Hope bubbled up, momentarily numbing the fear clawing at her gut. "Look, Lily! Maybe it's a flashlight, or someone." They rushed forward, but as they approached, the light flickered and dimmed until it extinguished completely. Rachel felt her heart drop. "Oh no, no, no," she murmured, terror flooding her veins. Feeling vulnerable, she turned to Lily. The little girl was still there, but her eyes had lost the sparkle of innocence. She was scanning the darkness, seeing beyond the veil that Rachel couldn't see. Her small frame trembled, and Rachel instinctively wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "Stay close," but it was too late. A faint sound cut through the silence. A soft clinking, like metal on metal, reverberated from the far end of the aisle. It beckoned them, luring them in like a siren-esque call. Both girls froze, Rachel feeling the hair on her arms prick up. "Do you hear that?" Rachel asked, her voice low and shaky. Lily nodded slowly, her braid bouncing with nervous energy. The clinking grew louder, insistent like a call to an unfathomable abyss. Rachel hesitated, pondering whether to investigate or run toward the exit. It was then they saw it. A shadowed figure hunched over, its back arched grotesquely, as if it was either searching for something or hiding from an unseen threat. It turned slightly, and Rachel saw a glint of pale skin in the dim light. "Run!" she hissed, but Lily stood frozen, her eyes wide with awe and fear. Rachel grabbed her hand and pulled her along, farther into the labyrinth, but as they sprinted, the laughter returned taunting, echoing through the aisles, mixing with the clinking, creating a haunting symphony of dread. Whispers flared up again, now clear. "Lost, lost, lost!" Rachel's breath hitched. They raced down a long corridor lined with frozen-faced mannequins, their lifeless eyes seeming to watch their panic unfold. Every step felt like a ticket deeper into chaos, and Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that something was hunting them. Heart pounding, she yelled over her shoulder, "We need to find the exit now!" But suddenly, every exit sign flickered ominously, casting shadows that danced menacingly. "What is happening?" Lily cried, her eyes darting left and right, searching for salvation. Rachel felt it, a rush of cold air against her back, the weight of something lurking just behind them. With every ounce of strength, she tugged Lily and spun to face the surroundings. And there it was again, the figure, advancing with unnatural speed, grinning now with a sinister twist. It stopped just out of reach, all the warmth sucked out of the space between them. As the darkness closed in, Rachel's world shrank to that single moment. She swallowed hard, adrenaline pumping. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, her voice cracking. But the entity answered with silence and a smile that promised nightmares. What horrors await Rachel and Lily in the suffocating darkness? And will they ever uncover the truth about the lost souls within their once safe store? Lily's whimper pierced through the silence, echoing off the cold metal shelves. The figure only smiled wider, its mouth stretching unnaturally across its face, showing teeth that gleamed like broken glass. "Playtime," it whispered in a voice low and rasping, a blade of ice skimming down Rachel's spine. She felt her breath hitch in her throat. "Run!" she urged again, her grip on Lily's hand tightening as they darted down another aisle. The laughter swelled around them, enveloping them like a fog, layering dread upon dread. Each curve of the aisles revealed only more darkness and confinement, an unyielding maze designed to trap them. Rachel's feet flew across the floor, loud and frantic. She caught glimpses of the mannequins out of the corners of her eyes, their frozen expressions distorting in her mind, as if they were beckoning her to join them. Was that one moving? Her heart screamed and the whispering intensified. "Lost," it taunted, the word ricocheting inside her head. They rounded another corner, desperation fueling their speed. Rachel could tell they were veering deeper into the store's belly, away from the main entrance, into a realm that felt more sinister with each step. Her only focus was to keep Lily beside her. She stole glances back, confirming the figure was still haunting them, a hunter eager to taste its prey. "Please!" Lily cried, her voice trembling with fear. "I don't want to play anymore." "Neither do I." Rachel spat, her throat dry and raw as she pushed them forward. Then she saw it, a flicker of hope, a doorway at the end of the aisle. The dull light spilled just beyond, a promise of freedom. There! Hurry! The two girls took off toward it, nearly colliding as Rachel yanked open the door. To her horror, it was a storage room, dimly lit by a single bulb. Empty boxes lined the walls, growing shadows that twisted with movement. Frantically, she pulled Lily inside, slamming the door behind them. She leaned against it, panting, as the laughter faded to muffled echoes. What now? Rachel's voice trembled, glancing around. The walls felt almost alive, pulsing with an anxious energy. She inhaled deeply, willing her racing heart to slow. Lily's grip on her arm tightened. What did it mean by playtime? Rachel wished she knew. I don't know, honey. As they huddled together, the stillness began to stretch, suffocating in its quiet. The air felt charged, thick with anticipation. Just when Rachel thought they might have caught a fleeting moment of safety, it happened. A low hum vibrated through the air. The single bulb flickered violently, casting eerie shadows around them. Rachel's heart lurched in her chest as the hum turned into a steady pulse, like a heartbeat. She could feel it resonating in her bones, eerie and alarming. What's that? Lily whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Rachel's head snapped to the door, a cold sweat trickling down her spine. She turned back, focusing on Lily to stave off the encroaching dread. Just a noise. Just ignore it. But the sound grew louder, an almost melodic thrumming that thrummed beneath the surface, promising something awful was on the other side. Then the door rattled, a heavy thump resounding through the small room. It felt like a warning. Rachel's muscles coiled like a spring, preparing for the worst. Get ready to run. The rattling turned into relentless banging, insistent and furious, the figure from before now overtaking the sound of her heartbeat. Something powerful was revealed on the other side, and with each pulse, Rachel's fear morphed into a desperation to escape. The door swung open with a spine-chilling creak, revealing the darkness beyond. The light flickered one last time before going out entirely. What do we do? Lily's voice quivered in the cold silence. As Rachel grappled with her overwhelming sense of duty and fear, shadows pulled in the doorway, distorting into shapes that didn't belong. All she could feel was the weight of their gaze, the darkness parting like a curtain, ready to swallow them whole. A whisper emerged from within that stretching blackness, drawing her in. Join us. Rachel's instincts screamed to flee, but a part of her was drawn in, along with Lily's innocent curiosity. What lay beyond that haunting whisper? Would they find salvation or surrender to the horrors lurking just out of sight? The shadows seemed to stretch out, their darkness hungry, wrapping around Rachel and Lily like a suffocating cloak. The whisper lingered in the air, curling around their minds, asking them to give in. Rachel could feel her heart hammering in her chest, a wild drumbeat that matched the frantic hum in the stillness. Don't listen, she hissed, grasping Lily's hand tighter. But that urge to succumb rustled in her gut, a dark curiosity whispering temptations of ease and belonging. The allure of the nebulous shapes was strong. With every beat of her heart, she could feel that pulse from the other side seeping through, resonating with something deep inside her, a stark contrast to the screaming panic in her mind. Suddenly, the darkness shifted. A figure slid forward from the shadows, its silhouette outlined against the void. Rachel blinked, her breath catching on the edge of disbelief. It was a child, pale and thin, its eyes wide and shiny like glass marbles catching a fleeting light. Are you lost? It asked, voice bright yet tinged with an edge that sent a chill down Rachel's spine. We're just trying to get out, Rachel managed, forcing her voice to sound steady while desperately calculating their escape. Stay and play, the child cooed, tilting its head. It's fun here. They're waiting for you. The shadows around the child twisted in response, forming grotesque shapes that made Rachel's stomach churn. The pastel colors of the storage room began to bleed into a kaleidoscope of muted greens and browns, and the once bright bulb flickered weakly, casting weird, dancing shadows. No! We have to go! Rachel shouted, her survival instinct roaring back like a flame igniting. She pulled Lily closer, ready to shove past the static fear. But before they could move, a wave of energy enveloped them, electric and suffocating like a thick fog. Suddenly, the room shifted, the walls warping and bending, revealing new corners and angles that shouldn't have existed. Lily whimpered, "Make it stop." Rachel shouted, "Lily, stick close." They turned toward the doorway only to see it collapsing in on itself, the figure of the child now laughing, a sound that reverberated, hollow and cold, echoing through the twisted dimensions of the growing chaos. "What if we just play?" Lily proposed, her innocence surfacing through her fear. "No!" Rachel screamed. "That's exactly what it wants." The room was alive with confusion now, and more figures were emerging, shaping themselves into distinct silhouettes. Some were children, others indistinguishable, and a few molded like the husks of something more sinister. "Help us join the fun!" they chirped, voices overlapping like a broken choir, a chilling melody churning the air. In a moment of desperation, Rachel lunged forward, dragging Lily along. They needed to break through. They pushed past the figures, their laughter morphing into wails of protest. But a force pushed back against them, as if the shadows were alive with a will of their own. Then, a piercing shriek broke through the cacophony, cutting the darkness. An adult figure stood at the edge of the area, its hands raised, trembling and wild. "Stop this! You can't keep them!" Rachel's focus sharpened, locked onto the frantic energy of the new figure. "Who are you? Just run!" it implored, "before it's too late." As they turned away, the shadows pulsed angrily, crowding in behind them. The child's laughter rang more sinister now, the sound wrapping around them like barbed wire. "Join us forever," echoed hauntingly, forcing Rachel and Lily into a sprint. Just as they neared the threshold of the door, a heavy weight erupted from the shadows, reaching for them, trying to pull them back into the abyss. Rachel grasped Lily's hand, and each flinch of the figures made her resolve surge stronger. "Now!" They burst through the doorway, tumbling into an open expanse of glowing white light. But even in that moment of escape, Rachel could feel the darkness whispering, tempting, trying to creep back into her thoughts, as the pulse behind them quickened. But what lay beyond this bright sanctuary? Would it truly shield them, or was it just another snare waiting to ensnare them? The light enveloped them, wrapping them in a false sense of security. Rachel blinked rapidly, trying to adjust her eyes from the sharp contrast of shadow to brightness. It felt surreal, a deceptive tranquility that whispered of hope. But doubt crawled up her spine, gnawing at her resolve. Was this a real escape or just a cruel trick? "Where are we?" Lily asked, her small hand trembling in Rachel's grip. "I don't know," Rachel stammered, scanning the expansive white space. It seemed infinite, an unyielding horizon stretching endlessly. Wavy tendrils of light flickered as if in conversation, casting gentle shadows across their faces. Yet danger lurked somewhere beneath that calm surface. They took hesitant steps forward, hearts racing, matching the thrumming pulse beneath the white haze. But even here, the remnants of the darkness whispered. "It's never over," the wind seemed to hiss, swirling around them like a mocking laugh. "Don't listen, Lily!" Rachel hissed, panic tightening her throat. Suddenly, a shift stirred in the air, a sudden rush of cold that felt distinctly familiar. The figures they'd just escaped from blinked into existence along the edges of the glowing space. Young faces twisted with the joy of a game, their wide eyes gleaming with mischief. "Come back! You can't leave us!" the child from before sang, its voice dripping with honey, but it bittered the air. Rachel's heart sank. "No, no!" she shouted, her voice breaking. "Let us play," they all pleaded, voices overlapping with deceptive sweetness. Lily, her innocence caught in the undertow of despair, looked to Rachel. "I want to play." The words sunk like stones in Rachel's gut. "No!" Rachel screamed. "You don't understand. They're lying. They want to trap us." But the child's laughter echoed in ever-growing circles, a tightening noose around her sanity. The shadows began to ripple like water as if the figures were reaching beyond the bounds of their space, fueling a new dread within Rachel. They were losing the grip on reality. "Lily! We need to go!" Rachel shouted, pulling her sister along, but the child's laughter crescendoed into heart-stopping shrills that pierced the serene illusion. Every step they took forward was met with claws of darkness curling around their ankles, digging in with icy fingers. "Stay with us," the voices wailed, stretching into a chorus of distorted longing. The light flickered, and Rachel's breath hitched. "It's changing," she murmured, dread pooling in her stomach. A shadow loomed directly ahead, a heavy, cloaked figure emerging from the radiance. Its face was obscured, but the weight of its presence dragged Rachel's hope down into an abyss. "You think you can escape?" it rasped, a voice so deep it seemed to curl around them like a serpent. "Let us go," Rachel begged, desperation clawing at her throat. But the shadow laughed a sound that shattered her resolve. "There's no exit. You belong to us now." Thunder rumbled in the distance of the bright space, like a storm yearning to break. Rachel felt the ground shudder beneath her feet, the figures around them morphing into a kaleidoscope of nightmarish reflections. Goosebumps raced up her arms, prickling with fear as the temperature dropped sharply. "Stay with us," the child echoed once more, its voice twisting into a mournful melody. Rachel's mind spun, racing against the encroaching darkness. "We can't give in, Lily! We have to fight." But with every heartbeat, reality blurred further, the white light dimming as the shadows thickened. Just as she prepared to break into a sprint, something sharp grazed her skin, the cold clutches of multiple unseen hands yearning to pull them back into their chaos. Lily gasped, and panic enveloped Rachel once more. If they didn't act fast, there would be just another lost echo in this hell of a game. With a sudden surge, Rachel had an idea. "Hold on tight," she shouted as she turned toward the shadows surrounding them. If they could meet darkness with darkness before she could finish the thought, an explosion of darkness erupted from behind, consuming them within thick, swirling tendrils. Rachel's scream was swallowed by the void, and her last thought was of the flickering white light that had betrayed them, and then silence. What new horrors awaited them in the depths? Was this just another prison, or was there a way out lurking in the dark? Rachel felt the weight of the silence pressing down on her like a lead blanket. It was disorienting. One moment they were surrounded by flickering light, the next, it was as if they had fallen into an abyss. The sensation of falling tugged at her stomach. She couldn't tell which way was up or down, and the air felt thick, suffocating. "Lily!" Panic surged through her voice, breaking the stillness. "Can you hear me?" A muffled whimper came from somewhere nearby. Relief washed over Rachel, but it was quickly replaced by the dread of uncertainty. "I'm here." Lily's voice sounded smaller than usual, as if they had separated in the darkness. "I can't see you. Just hold on to my voice." Rachel forced herself to sound steady, though her heart raced wildly. The fear wasn't just for herself, it was the desperate need to keep her sister safe. She reached out in front of her, fingers splayed wide, feeling nothing but empty space. "We need to find each other," she said, more to bolster her own courage than to guide Lily. As she moved slowly, the ground beneath her felt soft and unstable, like wet earth after a heavy rain. Rachel's feet squished in the darkness, threatening to pull her under with every cautious step. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, darting just beyond the curve of her gaze. "Rachel, it's getting cold." "Stay with me, Lily," Rachel whispered. She felt her heart gallop in her chest, but she forced herself to take a deep breath. The air still held an unusual chill, one that gripped her like icy fingers. Something rustled just beyond her reach, a soft, slithering sound that made her skin crawl. She turned sharply, straining to define any outline in the thick blackness. Then, to her horror, the laughter returned. It was soaked in malice, a cacophony of distorted joy that sent chills racing down her spine. The familiar voices clawed at her sanity, wrapping around her like a frozen vine. "Play with us. Forever." "Lily, we have to run!" Rachel shouted, pushing through the darkness. She sprinted in the direction she believed to be forward, reaching out blindly. Suddenly she stumbled, and the ground disappeared beneath her feet. She gasped, her heart lurching as she plummeted into a gaping void, the cold tendrils clawing at her. The fall felt endless, time stretching infinitely. She squeezed her eyes shut, fearing the moment she would hit the ground. When she finally landed, it wasn't the hard thud she expected. Instead, it was like landing on marshmallows. Confusion crept in, mingling with an unsettling fear. Rachel! Lily's small voice pierced through the thick haze, but it sounded more distant now, as if they were separated by miles. I'm here. Can you find me? Rachel clawed at the soft ground, panic rising again. The laughter roared with insanity, rising to a fever-pitched eye. In that moment, she realized that the ground beneath her was alive, shuddering and moving, like a living entity. Don't look back! Rachel screamed at herself, feeling the pressure of eyes in the shadows. She had to focus on Lily, to keep her sister safe against the tide of chaos. Just keep searching. But the ground rippled once more, the shadows bending and twisting as they formed grotesque shapes, faces emerging with twisted grins. You're not alone, they mocked in unison, whispering secrets in dark voices that slipped inside her mind. And then, something sharp pierced the darkness behind her, a flash of white teeth, gleaming like knives. Rachel bolted forward again, driven by adrenaline, but panic threatened to choke out her hope. Lily! We can find our way out. We have to believe! Just as she pushed through the moving ground, she felt a pause in the air, a moment of heavy silence. Then, with blinding speed, the figures shifted, pressing closer, their laughter fading into unnerving stillness. The world around her began to close in, thickening, constricting. What was this place? Before she could ponder a way to escape, a cacophony of voices filled her ears, screaming her name, blending with the glee of the children. And somewhere within the chaos, Rachel caught a glimpse of something bright flickering in the distance. Lily! She shouted again, but with every breath, Rachel felt the shadows pull tighter around her. Would that light lead them home or just deepen their nightmare? The thought sent shivers down her spine. What fresh horror awaited beneath that glow, and would they find themselves once more at the precipice of despair? Rachel's heart thundered in her chest as she plunged forward toward the flickering light. It seemed like a beacon in the cloying darkness, but as she drew closer, something deep inside her questioned its allure. Was it safety, or was it a trap? Lily! She called again, pushing past the dread that clawed at her mind. The ground beneath trembled, hungry, as if it were trying to warn her to stay away. The laughter faded, replaced by a soft whispering that danced at the edges of her consciousness. It felt like fingers tickling the back of her neck, urging her to turn back. But all she could think about was Lily. Another few frantic paces, and she emerged at the threshold of the light. It was dim but warm, flickering like a candle caught in a breeze. As the shadows retreated momentarily, Rachel could see what lay before her: a massive room, walls lined with old, weathered shelves filled with toys. But they weren't just any toys. They were strewn about as though they had been abandoned mid-play. Broken dolls with missing eyes, action figures with twisted limbs, all staring at her with hollow expressions. What is this place? She whispered, fear coating her tongue. Rachel! Lily's voice was much closer now, a plea soaked in fear and confusion. I'm here. Help me. Where? Rachel spun, desperate to locate her sister, each turn making her stomach curl tighter. Over here. The urgency in Lily's voice cut through the haze of panic, illuminating her chaotic thoughts. She followed the sound, stepping lightly over the dull parts and crumbling edges of the shelves that looked as if they were ready to collapse at any moment. As she continued, the temperature of the air changed suddenly, dropping sharply. It felt like icy tendrils wrapping around her limbs. She shivered, a chill racing down her spine. Her instincts screamed at her to turn around, to run back through the shadows, but the heartbreaking wail of her sister anchored her. Lily! Where are you? Rachel shouted, panic tightening her throat. Help! Rachel! The cry came from a wall decorated in distorted, faded rainbows, an odd juxtaposition to the raw fear that consumed them both. Rachel rushed toward the wall, her heart pounding louder with each step. It felt as if she were running against the tide of cold shadows. There, in the center of the wall, stood a large wooden door, ornate, almost regal, but its finish was chipped and rotting. Clutching the doorknob, Rachel hesitated. What if this was the true way out? What if it led to something worse? Just as she turned the knob, a low growl erupted from behind her, an echo of malice that made her heart stop. Slowly, Rachel pivoted, dread creeping over her. The piles of toys began to stir, pieces clicking together like a bizarre puzzle. Eyes, countless eyes shimmered in the darkness, glints of malice darting toward her as the toys began assembling themselves, forming grotesque human figures. They twisted and wobbled, limbs incompatible like a damning reflection of childhood nightmares come alive. Rachel, Lily whispered again, still trapped somewhere close. The plea struck her like an arrow, igniting courage in her veins. But the door beckoned. What lay beyond? Was it safety or another nightmare prepared to ensnare them? The laughter returned, this time more sinister than ever, rising above the madness as the figures stepped closer, their smiles stretching unnaturally wide. Play with us forever. Rachel could feel the pull of shadows tightening around them both. The line blurred between what was real and what was an illusion crafted by something dark and treacherous. With her heart racing, she gripped the handle and pulled open the door, the hinges creaking with forceful reluctance. Beyond it, a tunnel beckoned, dark and winding. And somewhere within its depths, Lily's voice called again. Would this lead them to freedom or drown them deeper into the horrors that awaited? What terrors lurked within that unfathomable darkness? Rachel took a stealing breath. I want to leave you, Lily, she declared, stepping through. But as the door slammed shut behind her, Rachel felt the weight of despair crashing around her once more, and the laughter erupted into a high-pitched cacophony within the tunnel's depths. What would she face next as the darkness swallowed her whole? The tunnel twisted and coiled like a snake, enveloping Rachel in its oppressive darkness. Every breath felt heavy, saturated with an earthy dampness that made her gag. Her heart hammered in her chest, each beat echoing in her ears like a relentless drum. Lily! She yelled again, her voice reverberating down the tunnel, fragmented and distant. The walls seemed to close in on her, constricting her breath. The air was thick with a mixture of fear and mildew, every exhale a desperate plea for survival. She pressed on, her feet wary of the unseen obstacles hiding beneath the stale air. The whispers returned, taunting her with soft, sinister promises. Turn back, Rachel, they beckoned. Leave while you still can. But the thought of leaving without Lily was unbearable. I'm coming! She shouted, rallying her courage. Stay close, I'll find you. The path began to ascend, and suddenly, she felt it as shifting beneath her feet, as if the very ground had become alive. A rumbling sound rippled through the air, a warning from the dark. Rachel's eyes widened as a shadow loomed ahead, blocking her way. Chilled to the bone, she froze. The silhouette morphed, expanding to reveal a grotesque figure, made of twisting shadows and flickering lights. Its mouth stretched open, a yawning abyss filled with an empty echo. It didn't shift or quiver, it was still, watching her, as if it savored her fear. Do you want to play? A voice hissed, dripping with malice. It was a mockery of childhood glee, the pitch eerily high yet grounded in a chilling growl. Rachel's only instinct was to flee, but where? Turning to run would mean retreating into the suffocating darkness again. She raised her hands in defense. I'm not here to play, she shouted, feeling her voice tremble. The figure laughed, a sound as dissonant as shattered glass. Oh, but dear Rachel, you've already begun the game. You just haven't realized it. Cautiously, she stepped backwards, eyes locked onto the monstrous apparition. As she moved, it followed, mirroring her actions, a warped reflection of her own terror. With each step, it drew closer, and the air thickened with the stench of decay, the uncanny scent of lost childhoods. Lily! She screamed again, desperate to pierce the veil of darkness that wrapped itself around her. Help! Lily's voice called again, echoing like a siren. Then Rachel saw it, glimmers of light in the distance. A flickering like stars hidden in fathomless night. Hope ignited inside her. She dashed toward the light, trusting that it led to her sister. The sinister figure roared, a sound that shook the very foundation of the tunnel, sending waves of fear coursing through Rachel. You can't escape. It howled, the tone dripping with disdain. With each frantic step toward the glimmers, the walls constricted, pushing her forward, ever closer. Laughter danced at the edges of her sanity, a cacophony that reverberated in her bones. Finally, she reached the source of the light, an open chamber, bright but haunting. A single, antique chandelier glowed above her, illuminating an array of life-size dolls, their faces pale and unmoving. In the center of the room stood a mirror, decorated with grotesque carvings that seemed to writhe and shift in the light. But there was no sign of Lily, only the horrifying stillness of the room. Lily? Rachel cried out amidst the rising terror. A giggle, innocent yet unnervingly sharp, erupted from behind her. Rachel turned slowly, terror coursing through her. In the reflection of the mirror, she caught a glimpse of Lily, standing frozen, a wide smile plastered across her face. Lily! Rachel gasped. But as she reached out, the reflection twisted, and the real Lily disappeared from view. Join us, the whisper crooned, seductive and cruel, as shadows curled around Rachel's ankles, urging her closer. What awaited her in that mirror? A new nightmare? Or was it the path to rescuing her sister? With her heart racing, Rachel leaned closer to the mirror, captivated and terrified. As the darkness encroached, she braced herself, dread pooling in her gut. Could she unravel the truth behind the sinister game before it was too late? The moment Rachel's breath fogged the cool surface of the mirror, a coldness rushed through her. An icy grip wrapped around her heart as the distorted reflection of Lily laughed again, a sound that echoed with an eerie defiance. Why did you come, Rachel? The mirrored girl asked, her eyes glinting with malevolent joy. Get away from her! Rachel shouted, but her voice cracked, betraying her fear. The dolls lining the walls shifted subtly, their painted smiles growing wider, as if they relished in her terror. Each pair of glassy eyes now seemed to meet hers, judging, mocking. The alive feeling was unnerving. Rachel backed away, attempting to find a way out of this waking nightmare, but the shadows around her twisted in protest, latching onto her legs like hungry vines. Panic surged, tightening its cruel hand around her throat. She couldn't breathe. The glimmering light that had guided her here flickered, threatening to extinguish. Rachel, the voice of the reflection echoed, You've already chosen. You wanted to play. Not like this. Let her go. She screamed, her voice now thin and desperate. But the words splashed against the mirror like raindrops against a glass door, fruitless and unheard. With a sudden surge of instinct, Rachel hurled herself at the mirror, hoping to shatter whatever malevolence lurked behind the surface. It didn't budge. Instead, her fist collided with cold hard glass, sending ripples across the surface. Lily's reflection trembled, then began to breathe in sync with Rachel's rising terror. What do you want? Rachel cried, clenching her hands into fists, the glass biting cold against her skin. Join us, the chorus of dolls chimed, their voices intertwining in a haunting lullaby. The shadows thickened, swirling as if to wrap her in a cocoon. Each moment pulled her deeper into despair. Just then, a loud crack echoed in the room, making the dolls jerk in perfect unison. Rachel's heart raced as she turned back toward the tunnel. The wall shifted, and she caught a glimpse of movement, something stirring deeper in the darkness, something far more sinister. In the flickering light, she noticed a small door at the back of the chamber, slightly ajar, revealing pitch black beyond. With a final scream of Lily's name, Rachel lunged towards the doorway, hoping against hope it held the answers she sought. As she pushed through, the air changed, becoming lighter, sweeter, but tinged with something foul. A figure loomed close, eyes glinting like shards of glass. Rachel stumbled backwards, recognizing the face twisted into a cruel smile. It was her own, yet warped, a reflection of every fear she ever held. You think you can leave? It hissed. Frozen with disbelief, Rachel stumbled back, feeling the darkness creep into her mind, eating away at her resolve. Maybe this was a game. Maybe the horror of survival was beyond her control. But before she could gather her thoughts, a blood-curdling scream echoed from behind the doorway, a sound so raw it brushed against her senses. It was unmistakably Lily's voice, calling out in sheer terror. Rachel stood on the brink, her heart pounding in her chest. Would she confront the reflection of herself? Or would she inch closer to the horrifying truth lurking behind that door? She had no choice. Whatever it was, she couldn't abandon her sister. With her heart racing, Rachel stepped towards the door, knowing that whatever awaited her might just be the end or a chance to save Lily. Was the truth of this relentless game about to reveal itself, or would she lose everything in an instant? As Rachel stepped through the door, she plunged into a cacophony of chaos. The warmth that had brushed against her skin turned bitterly cold, and the walls twisted in horrid shapes that seemed intent on trapping her. The world seemed to stretch and fold, fashioning an unyielding labyrinth. She fought through fear, urging herself to push onward. The echoes of Lily's scream reverberated in her mind, a haunting melody that propelled her forward. "Lily! I'm coming!" she yelled, desperation flooding her voice. Every corner she turned brought chilling whispers, laced with mockery and taunting laughter from the shadows. They slithered through her thoughts, inviting her to give in, to surrender. But she wouldn't. Not now. Not ever. The air thickened with unease as she stumbled into another vast chamber, this one illuminated by a flickering light and ominous chandelier made of tarnished silver. Beneath it sat a peculiar table set with cracked dolls and shattered toys, arranged around the central piece, a large, reflective surface that twisted her own features into horrific shapes. Behind the reflection, twisting shapes writhed, echoing the lament of lost souls. Then she saw Lily, so close yet painfully out of reach. The little girl stood in front of a wall lined with jars, each containing an eerie glow. She reached out, curious, but Rachel felt a raw panic spike through her like fire. "Lily, don't touch anything!" Rachel shouted, advancing desperately to her sister. Lily turned, her expression a blend of confusion and resolve. "But it's so pretty!" she replied, her innocence shining through, drawing Rachel closer. "No, sweetheart. We need to leave," Rachel urged, heart pounding. She lunged, but as she did, the room shifted violently, crumpling like paper. Shelves twisted and shadows lunged toward her, elongating their grasping fingers. They ripped through the air, shrieking, "You're part of the game now. Join us forever." Rachel felt cold pressure surrounding her, each shadow intimately familiar. Fighting back the terror, she pressed forward once more, forcing her legs to move, fueled by sheer willpower. "Lily! Follow me. We can find a way out." The shadows snarled defensively, their whispers turning to growls. "You can't escape," they hissed. Just as despair threatened to overtake her completely, Rachel caught another glimpse of her sister, who still stood mesmerized, entranced by the jars aglow behind her. "Lily! Trust me!" Rachel reached for her sister's small hand, and in that moment, everything froze. The chamber was enveloped in a tension so thick, Rachel could almost slice through it. With a desperate yell, she pulled Lily towards her, their hands clasped as the air around them shimmered, pulsing like a heartbeat. Together, they began to step backward, out of the grip of darkness that had been reaching for them. But the shadows rallied, reducing the distance once more. "You can't leave!" they shrieked, closing in. "Together, Lily!" "On the count of 3. Rachel yelled, her voice filled with fierce determination. 1, 2, 3. They bolted toward the edge of the room where the flickering light suddenly brightened, revealing a door slightly ajar, promising escape from this nightmare. The madness around them erupted into howls of rage as they hurtled towards the opening. Just as they reached the edge, the shadows lashed out, attempting to pull Lily back into the abyss. With a deep, guttural scream, Rachel yanked her sister forward, crashing through the threshold together into a blinding light. They tumbled through, landing on a soft surface, breathing heavily. The world transformed around them as they sat in the familiar aisles of the Walmart they once knew. The fluorescent lights buzzed steadily, but the oppressive darkness had receded. Trembling, Rachel turned to Lily, whose eyes widened as relief washed over her precious features. "We did it! We made it!" Rachel exclaimed, tears pooling in her eyes. They were free. But as Rachel gazed back at the door they had burst through, she couldn't help but feel a dark chill whisper through the air. Was it truly over? The haunting laughter echoed in her mind, warning her this was but a reprieve. Rachel, let us go home, Lily whispered, her voice soft yet steady. Yes, Rachel replied firmly, standing tall as she clasped her sister's hand. Just keep moving forward, no looking back. And as they began their journey to the exit, Rachel's heart swelled with the fierce determination to protect her sister. No darkness would take them again. Together, they stepped out into the night, leaving behind the store and its sinister secrets, prepared to embrace the light of a new dawn, forever marked by the shadows they'd escaped but grateful for the brightly lit path ahead. But even as they walked away, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that some games never truly ended. And deep down, she knew that shadows lurked, just out of sight, waiting, always waiting. Don't let this story end without joining us for the next terrifying adventure. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the goosebumps in our upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your unwavering support. Don't let your thoughts go unheard. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Rachel and Lily's fate. And for the love of suspense, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who crave chilling tales just like this. Don't wait even one more second. Your support means everything.